For those of you who aren't familiar with my background, I stumbled into the work watching an episode of Oprah, and it was on that show that I learned about the war in Congo, the deadliest war since World War II. At the time, 45,000 people were dying every month as a result of the conflict. Hundreds of thousands of women have been raped. Gang rape, sexual slavery, torture are really the standard for the kind of rape that's happening in Congo. It's been termed the worst place on earth for women. And it really was sparked by the Rwandan genocide, the conclusion of the Rwandan genocide, where those militias were pushed over the border into Congo, where they started terrorizing locals, and it erupted into what's been termed Africa's World War. For me, I think the thing that really hooked me about Congo from the beginning were just the very human stories. And there was one woman's story in particular. She was talking about being dragged away to the forest by a militia, and she thought they were going to kill her, so she was begging for her life. And they told her, even if we killed you, what would it matter? You're not human. You are like an animal. Even if we killed you, you would not be missed. And what struck me about that is that in a lot of ways, the world agrees with that guy. That when millions of people are dying and no one's even talking about it, we're sending a very powerful message that we don't consider these people human beings. And so for me, I felt like that was the one thing I couldn't do. I scoured the internet trying to find where I could plug into a movement for Congo in 2005, and the field was blank. There was almost no one in the US who was focused on Congo, no news stories about what was happening there. I found one woman in California who was just sending tea bags and combs to women at the Panzi hospital who had been raped, and that was just about it. So not a lot of focus on the Congo at that time, and I decided, okay, I'll do what I can, which is run. So I decided to create Run for Congo Women, which the first year was me running 30 miles and alone, but with a lot of support from this community, and I really don't think it would have gone further than that had it not been in a community like Portland that started. But my goal was basically a movement. I thought if we could raise $1 million, that would really mean that we had a movement. So the effort grew. We had events around the world, and really turned my life upside down to do everything that I could with a lot of stops and starts along the way. In the end, Run for Congo Women has now raised more than $15 million for women in the Congo, supporting more than 90,000 Congolese women and children. So really remarkable success there. We went on to co-found Sister Somalia, the first sexual violence crisis center in Mogadishu. That effort began with a bundle of letters and 30 women, some of whom are in this room tonight or this afternoon, pledging $10 a month. That's how we started. Within a year and a half, it had been on the cover of the New York Times. We'd raised $200,000. The center grew to have a budget of $1 million a year and has served thousands of women around Somalia who had no access to services prior to that. So another really big success there. We also were really involved in conflict minerals protests. As was alluded to earlier, Intel certainly has stepped up with their conflict-free products. That may not have been the case in 2010, but my mom and I took about 45,000 pennies around to Intel and around Silicon Valley, encouraging tech companies to support regulations that have since come through. That was an effort where, we had a few people getting together to protest, beginning here, sort of leading that charge. We went up against the tech, jewelry, manufacturing, and retail lobbies, and we ended up winning. So it's been a remarkable journey.